What's up, my people? What up? I'm Sam, also known as the Pro Design Builder. Bringing to you another live stream, another live training. And today, what we're going to be talking about is market condition updates and getting clear on your why. That's going to be extremely important. Reason that's extremely important is because uh, as a coach, as a entrepreneur, honestly, I cannot work with anybody that has a small vision or a small why. Right? If you ever want to be a real estate developer, that's not what that is. Right? That requires you to have a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience, a lot of perseverance, because you have to go through a lot of red tape, a lot of planning. It's not for the faint at heart. Yes, the profits are big when it comes to new development projects, but they're just not handing those out, right? So, you need to be a big visionary. And I just wanted to kind of start there because I just feel like that's the right place to start. So, if you don't know me, my name is Sam, also known as the Pro Design Builder. For the last 14 years, I've been a real estate investor. For the first 5 years, I was a house flipper. Then the last 8 years, I've been a design build general contractor. And what a design build general contractor is from concept to completion. I'm the single point of contact for the client. So they would come to me to build a custom home, and then I would walk them through the process. I handled the architect, I handled the designer, I handled the actual construction, permitting, anything that has to do with planning, ordering material, all of it. I handle every aspect of that. And what I'm doing now is I'm helping real estate investors do the same thing. Right. So it all started in 2011. My wife got into med school, and she was supposed to go to med school in the islands of Anguilla. And I remember right before she was supposed to go, she wrote me a letter, and I'm reading the letter, and it essentially said, I don't foresee us having the family life that we envision. I don't foresee us, that happening. If I go to med school, then I have to go to Chicago after. There's a bunch of different good reasons at the time. It frustrated me, but it was the absolute right move, and you'll understand why that's important when I get to talking about my why. So she handed me a book, Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I devoured that book. I grew from that book. It instantly resonated with me that what I needed to do as a real estate investor. And then I went to a seminar, and then I went to a second seminar just for an exclamation point. And then from there, I took massive action. All right. I started taking massive action. I was green. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't even know what an escrow was. But I had a friend at the title company that would just tell me exactly, what to do, where to put the escrow line, what initials to sign off, what addendums that I needed. And that's kind of how I got my first deal done. But my vision didn't stop there. I remember I was flipping this house, and I needed to get this engineering letter for it because the property had at one point a car had ran into the side of the home, and there was a structural element that was needed, right? But it wasn't closed out on a permit, but this came up later. And I remember approaching this building engineer, and I said, hey, you help me out on this particular project. I want to understand. I want to become a developer. Can I come work for you for free and donate my time and da 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 da? He goes, this guy was a real jerk. He goes, he said, you could pay me 30 grand, and I'll teach you everything you know. He said, as a matter of fact, 40 grand, right? And then I'll teach you everything you need to know about building, developing, etc., right? And at that time, I was still an investor. I wasn't a design, building, a contractor. I was still trying to figure it out. I knew I had the end goal of being a developer, right? So that wasn't going to work out for me, and the guy was a jerk. So I remember I had a friend in Manhattan that was a developer that I went to high school with, and at the time he had about $600 million in the pipeline of projects. He had another couple $100 million in projects that they were planning for. And I remember sitting in his office, and he was like, "Sam, how do you want to get involved?" And I was considering moving to New York. And he was, I was like, "Hey, I want to do this, I want to do that, and I want to learn all of the steps, da da da." And I ended up representing him on a project in Fort Lauderdale that he was considering building. But that's here nor there. I remember leaving that meeting, and I said to him, "I want to learn new development through construction. I think that was going to give me the best lens that I needed to do." And then that's when I started my company from there. But I've done everything in regards to investing, building, everything. I've done it all, right? And now I am utilizing all of the skills that I've learned to help other people, right? And the reason being is family and I don't want to necessarily live where we are living anymore. We want to travel abroad, and this is going to allow me the best way to do that is to have this level of flexibility. All right, so market conditions. All right, so the question I got for you is, are you prepared with what is going to happen in your own personal economy? All right, I know, just like everyone else, if you say that you can't feel what's going on, you're lying to yourself, right? Everyone is feeling this squeeze, right? I know, just for me, if I hang out at Publix, which is a grocery store, more than 5 minutes, then I know I'm gonna get it, right? So the consumer really sees the economy through that lens. And I see the economy from a very different lens, and we're going to kind of dive into that a little bit later, right? So when prices go up on material, and as a contractor, I'm handling tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars in material. So when the price increase happens, I see it a lot more and a lot faster than the consumer sees it at the grocery store when they're buying products and stuff like that. So we're going to be diving into what the Fed has to say in regards to interest rates, and then we're going to dive into getting clear on your big why, your big vision, right? So I want to break certain things down, right? What is the Fed funds rate, right? It's important for us to know what that is. It's the interest rate banks charge each other, for overnight lending, right? So the Fed funds rate is going to be very important to understand, because the Fed said that they're not going to cut the rate right now. They said they're optimistic about the current picture, but you have to pay attention to what they're saying, and I'm going to break that down for you today, right? So the rate will not change. They said that they do plan to cut rates over the next year, maybe twice. And let me just explain to you exactly what happens when the rate goes up and the rate goes down, right? I'm going to use a car note, for example, right? So if the rate goes up, let's say you're at 6% and the rate goes up, you should probably expect to pay anywhere from 7.5% to almost close to 8% when the rates go up, depending on how many basis points they go up. And if they go down, you'll expect to pay less, so 5% or so, because the banks do not have to pay as much to trade funds, right? So they say they're going to keep it at the level of where it's at. But one thing that you have to pay attention to the Fed, they are aware that anything that they say could create a market shift, right? So they painted a picture that looks like this, but also gave us warning on the tariff situation, which I kind of explained to you a little bit. So the Feds are keeping the rate at the same. Labor rate currently is at 4.1%, which is good. Overall GDP is 2%. which has slowed down some, which is also good, but we're still continuing to increase. Inflation rate is at 2.8%. Now, when the Fed started increasing their interest rate, what they said was they wanted to get down to a 2% inflation percentage. Right, that would make them feel comfortable. Right now, it's still a little bit higher than they want it to be, so that's why they kept the interest rate right where it is in hopes that it would continue to press down. Right, every time they increase the rate, it slows down consumption, it slows down spending because money is a lot more expensive. All right, you'll see that also in your credit card statements when those rates increase as well. Right, so so that's what's going on there. But what you had to pay attention to is, and what they kept talking about was the tariffs, right? And I wanted to break down through the Webster's dictionary on what a tariff is, just so you're educated on exactly what it is and then what it's not. All right, so Webster's dictionary says, a schedule of duties imposed by the government on imported goods. All right, so the best way I can describe this to you is the goods are imported, they add this extra duty on top, and guess what happens from here, right? Now the person that's purchasing it, that received its extra duty, it squeezes the margin on the material, right? Now what needs to happen for them to make profit is they got to pass this on to the consumer. So that's how that works, right? So when we're talking about price increases and what we expect to happen, and you hear these large numbers, 240% increase in stuff like that, it's going to make it a lot more expensive to get business done, right? And what that's going to do is, especially when we're talking about construction and new development, that is going to increase the price of anything new construction, right? So it's going to be important, but what it's also going to do is it's going to increase values of properties, right? Because it's a lot more expensive to execute on them. So that's what that's going to look like there, right? And it's important for you to understand exactly what that is, how that's going to affect you, especially if you want to take on any projects moving forward. So a couple companies that have been around for a very long time that are shutting their doors. Macy's, big one, over 150 stores. Joann Fabric is another one, and Forever 21, all are closing their doors. So we could see that this inflation and this current environment are squeezing these big companies, and these big companies are shutting their doors. So for the last few months, we've been, last year and a half or so, even last month, we've been seeing there's an increased number of layoffs happening, right? The jobs report happened last month, and they showed a positive gain of jobs, but what you didn't see was the jobs that were added were all part-time, right? There were way more layoffs last month, right? And this is going to continue to increase, right? And I'm sharing this information with you not to scare you, right? And the Bible says we don't operate from fear. Fear is not from God, right? And we can't operate in that realm, right? I educate you on this market condition so you can make the best decisions and know and understand how to move in this changing market, right? And the other day, and I posted it in the group, I interviewed Donald Dye, which is a wealth strategist. Tons of knowledge. I just love talking to Donald, and he just drops so much game on me when it comes to building wealth and understanding how to set things up, not just in my mind, but for others. But one of the things that he talks about is vision and having a big vision, right? Because the Bible says, without vision, the people perish. And anytime I'm looking at life through the lens of the Bible, I ask myself, why did he feel like it was important for that to be in there, right? Without vision, the people perish, right? So that's why when I am talking to you guys and people that want to become new developers, understanding that the vision needs to be big, right? And if the vision is big, the action will be big, right? And that's the only way for that to happen for you. So there's a few things that he dropped on me, and I'm gonna go down through these nuggets, and I highly recommend that you check out that video if you haven't already. Nothing but gems there. He talked about what are the biggest mistakes that he says, what are the most common mistakes that high net worth individuals make? But he said, try a lot of things, right? Instead of having a single focus, right? I'm going to try this, I'm going to try that, I'm going to try that, right? And I call this the shiny object syndrome. And if you've been an entrepreneur for a very long time, you know and understand exactly what this looks like, or you sometimes may get bored with what you're doing. Yeah, you're successful at it, but then now you're kind of bored that you're doing this thing over and over and over, right? And he was saying that you need this staying power in this one particular area for a long period of time before you start diversifying, right? Because you got to think about it. Once you start diversifying, you're splitting your time, you're splitting your focus, you're not as effective, right? So anybody that want to get into new development projects, I teach it in a way that you're running a business. This is not a single transaction. This is not a dibble dabble. Let me sample. Let me try this. No, it's a situation where I'm going to show you how to become a developer, how to run the systems, how to manage people, how to plan projects, how to read plans, how to orchestrate all of the moving parts that needs to happen for you to execute, on a project. So let me see, where else did he go? He goes, what roles does creative financing methods? All right, so he touched on creative finance, which is going to be important in securing different properties, right? Because of bank lending has tightened, because of credit cards and different access points to capital have changed. It's going to be important for you guys to know and understand how to creatively structure deals to obtain land and then finance your project. That's going to be important as well. And then he talked about making sure that you get the right ROI. So like I said, he dropped a bunch of gems when it comes to vision, all right? And now we're going to get into getting clear on your why, all right? Your why is ultimately very important. So I told you about my wife writing me a letter saying I didn't want to go to med school because I didn't foresee us having a family life, right? So then now I'm going to take a few steps back for you, right? So I think I shared with you guys before that I'm a foster dad, I'm an adoptive dad, I've adopted twins, and I'm currently fostering now. And the first time that I was really hit with the issues of foster care was in the 8th grade. I was walking home my then girlfriend home from school, and she told me that her stepdad was raping her after school. I told her she needed to say something, and she did. And she told me that I gave her the strength to say something, but that started her journey through foster care. She landed in a great home. I was able to see that. I kept in contact with her, and I still keep in contact with her today. And then I think that was the first time the boulder hit me over the head on how and why this mission work that I'm on is so important. All right. And then when I was in college, I think I was sophomore year of college, I was asleep and I had this vision, and God came to me and told me that I was going to foster and adopt 17 plus kids. And it really resonated with me. And when I met my wife, I told her about it, and I was like, are you game for that? Because this is where I'm headed. And she was like, yeah. And then that's where we're at. That's my pursuit. That's my big why. And I share it because it comes from a deep place. Right? And I've had 5 kids through our home. Like I said, I've adopted 2 kids. I'm currently fostering now. I've had a number of kids through our home. And my vision is big because I have to provide, for a lot as far as family goes. So getting clear on this why, right? I set that on the table, right? It comes from a deep place. I don't mind sharing it. I share all sorts of things like this that are challenging for that I've met early on in my life that really drives and pushes me. So getting clear on what this why is and this vision is, and then what are the steps that are going to be needed for you to secure the legacy of your family, right? You're going to need to take massive action, massive steps, right? And as the economy changes, as AI continues to play a factor, AI doesn't play as big of a factor in development. The lack of experience, the lack of knowledge plays a bigger lack. And our industry is dominated by big conglomerates, publicly traded companies. They have big outfits. They could do large scale projects, hundreds of homes and stuff like that. But you can do it as well, right? Like I was a house flipper. I didn't know anything about construction, learned construction, got into, started a construction company, expanded myself into design build, built stuff, learned how to do all of the steps required. So it's possible, right? And now you could bend the time gap that it's taken me a long time to know and understand exactly how to do all of this stuff. And now you could learn to bend the time gap to kind of close that window on becoming a developer. So I always want this to be interactive. I know there's not a lot of people in the group right now, but I want to know where you're struggling. Where are you looking to grow? Like, what questions do you have that I could answer and make this more interactive? And then we'll kind of continue to grow and build from there. So I hope you guys are getting a lot from what I'm sharing. I bring my best stuff, right? Because there's no other guarantee that we're gonna live past today. That's just kind of how I operate. So if you ever have any questions, feel free to message me. I make myself available and we can connect there. All right. Have a good day.